Time to do some sketchy shit. Doo-dah, doo-dah. Hope I get away with it. Oh, da doo-dah day.
Hello, welcome to Last Man Standing. I'm Dan Hollifield, and if you watch Stupid O'Clock, you will now be wondering what the earth-shattering news that I was supposed to announce at the beginning of this show. The earth-shattering news is that Joe Dog is a complete asshole. That's it. I have absolutely no earth-shattering news to impart. I've got 7 months and a week and a half before I retire. That's the biggest news in my life. My wife still loves me, and after 16, 17 years of marriage, I think I'm going to count that one as a victory right there, because I have not upset her enough to want to head off for greener pastures. Don't know why. I don't know why anybody puts up with me, but apparently I am entertaining. Right now, I'm entertaining the idea that I should have taken the break to go mix another drink, but I've got a cold beer handy, so I'm doing good. With me tonight, we've got Rich, Dawn, and Donna. If I can function well enough to bring them on the channel. So here's Rich, here's Dawn, and here's Aunt Donna, and we are doing okay. I started to quote one of the movies that I saw in the 70s. I forget if it was Boob Cube or oh, there was something else exactly like it that probably was better. I don't know. There were a lot of Saturday Night Live and Second City and Fridays actors in all of them, but basically the opening line of the movie was, "The popcorn you are eating has been pissed in. Film at 11."
Okay.
I've actually
I remember
used that
that.
line a couple of times in a couple of the show's openings, and Evidently, I'm the only senior citizen that watches us. So, Donna, I didn't say you were watching. You're here.
Yep, yep.
Uh,
And,
I
I,
would.
and I'm
I
thinking
would.
that your earth-shaking news isn't really news to most of us.
I thought, oh yeah, that we.
Yeah,
Mhm.
To know him is to take him with a grain of salt.
a whole salt shaker.
The Great Salt
Salt lick for
Flats of
deer.
Utah. Uh,
I know that quote that you just gave us, Dan, was in Kentucky Fried Movie. I'm not sure about any others.
Kentucky Fried Movie. Yes, that was the other one. And having seen both, I do believe that Kentucky Fried Movie was marginally funnier than Boob Cube, but or Boob Tube, whichever. I can't remember at this late date. But they were. I was still in college when those came out, so um,
Only seen Kentucky Fried Movie once, and the other one I've never seen.
Oh,
Never,
I've seen it
oh,
so
haven't
many
seen either
times,
of
it's
them.
not even funny.
I actually.
Concentration.
I actually did an edit of Enter the Dragon that had the Bruce Lee Enter the Dragon parody in Kentucky Fried Movie as the prequel to Enter the Dragon with the actual Bruce Lee. Or it might have been the sequel, I'm not sure, but I, I went so far as to get both movies and put them on my little movie editing thing and splice bits together.
Like
Uh,
that.
Splice and dice.
That's how we used to have to do it in the old days, Don.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, but we were using actual film and cellophane tape to splice things together back then.
And razor blades.
Yes. Oh, I can't tell you how many cassette tapes I saved that way after a cassette player ate one and shredded, or at least mutilated, a couple of feet of tape. And it was usually a store bought pre recorded tape that did that. The ones that I recorded my own stuff on were the highest quality blank tapes that I could buy. And there were several brands. I can't recommend one over another, but I wound up using BASF blank cassette tapes because they seemed to suffer the least amount of damage over the years. Although the the recordings themselves kind of faded a bit. So
Hi,
there were other
recording.
brands that would
Don.
keep the sound quality, but not be as um, vigorous in the actual survivability of the tape itself. And it was a big thing. But like anybody even knows what a cassette is nowadays. Um,
I do.
yes, I know, but you're not one of the children. Um,
That's true.
oh Lord, and God help me if we were talking about 8 tracks. You'd be one of the few that knew what I was talking.
I
Ka-dunk.
still have. I still have 8 tracks.
I do too.
I had an 8-track player in my Impala, in my um, Ford Fairmont, and in my Mercury Grand Marquis.
I don't
Ooh.
think I ever had one in a vehicle, but for my first job, I saved up and I went down and I got a stereo set that had the turntable, AM/FM radio, 2 deck. No, it's only got 1 deck cassette and the 8-track tape player. That was my gift to myself. The very first thing that I bought with my
You
own money that I had worked for.
you
I still have it.
remember you remember back when, well, you weren't there, but you may remember that I have recordings of stuff from my garage band days.
Mm-hmm.
I actually owned 4 reel-to-reel tape recorders, 2 of which had an 8-track built into the side. And I would take a finite loop of tape and run it through all of the machines so that I had a hardware uh, tape loop effect. They do that now digitally, but back then it was all hardware. And depending on how far apart you put the different reel to reel tape machines, you could control the delay between the recording, the first play, the second recording, the second play, and it went on and on. Hey, I freely admit I was always a big fan of Robert Fripp and Brian Eno, and I learned a lot from reading about how Robert Fripp did incredible sound effects on different albums, and um, Frippertronics was basically a whole room full of reel-to-reel tape recorders spaced out different number of feet with alternate ones being play and record. So,
Well, I still have my stereo, not out of because it's a memory, but because back in the 70s, they said you needed to do this certain thing to keep your stuff from getting stolen. And they sold these special engraving pins so you could do it. And they said put it in a prominent place. So on the chrome on the front of my thing, I have my social security number engraved.
couldn't never sell that one in a pawn shop, could you?
Nope. And it's engraved and I mean it's kind of cheap chrome so that if
Mm-hmm.
I tried to sand it off it would really deface that.
Mm-hmm.
I also did that on a Greek vase that my first fiance brought me back from Greece when he went on a trip. I could probably get it taken off of that and not devalue it any, but uh, yeah, that that stereo's mine forever.
Oh, I'm afraid I do have some big news.
What's that?
The computer I am using now, Microsoft wants to convert it to Windows 11.
Right now.
Apparently, I have my choice of when. It's just if I do that and cannot go to the expense of upgrading every program that I have on this computer, y'all may never see me again, except in person. We shall see. I'm going to try and put it off for as many years as I possibly can, but
If you're
they
anything like me,
did
you'll
this.
have a tantrum and you'll get it all figured out and find other ways to make people see you.
Mm, if I wind up having to pay full price for a new version of the program that I write my music
Ooh.
on just to get it to run on Windows 11, I'm going to ask my cousin Jeff for one of his ballistic missiles. I just
Um,
need one.
Mr. IT man, isn't there a way of like canceling that forever?
I don't know about canceling it forever, but I can put it off for a while.
I asked Mr. IT man.
Um, technically, you wouldn't be able to cancel it forever. Only until the next forced round of updates that come out. I mean, technically, there is a way to cancel it forever. Install Linux. But outside of something like that, it's I have to tell mine to snooze every few months because it just I'm not ready for 11 yet.
I'm not either. I when I have time tomorrow, assuming it doesn't do it during the night while I'm sleeping. Actually, at the end of the show, I'm going to go to the control panel and tell it, no, not yet, and just keep putting it off and keep putting it off until I absolutely have no other choice whatsoever. And it'll probably turn out to be no problem at all. But if I had my druthers, I'd probably still be running XP on everything. So, I'm old fashioned.
XP was a good operating system. My only complaint is it has been past end of life, so there have been no security updates for it in any way, shape, and or form for over 10 years now.
I would have said 20, but yeah, you're probably more correct than I am.
No, we switched to Windows 7 at the firm just a few months ahead of its end of life, where they were going to do no more support for it in any way, shape, and or form. But we were running XP up until 2012, late 2012. We got our last machines kicked over, and it was like April 2013 that was the end of life for XP.
I've got a desktop and
Sad that I know those dates off the top of my head.
I've got a desktop and a netbook that are still running XP, and I went in and turned off all updates to keep them from forcibly being changed over, even though the machines they're in could not handle 7, 8, 10, what have you. So they're still useful for particular tasks. I don't check my email. I don't go web surfing on them. There's specific things that I do with them that I can't do on any other machine. And they're online so that I can ship copies of what I make to my Dropbox and pick it up on other machines and hope that the what was XP, 32-bit or
I believe they did have both a 32 and a 64. 32 was the most common build for it, I want to say.
I probably don't have a 64-bit XP. I wish I did. There were certain programs that
I think XP
would run
was
on
the
XP.
first flavor that they started doing 64-bit with.
There are certain things that I could do with XP that would not translate to any of the new 64-bit computers because they just go, I ain't running that. Well, that's a freaking joke. We're not running that. Not even in emulator mode. We're not running that. Otherwise, I'd have a copy of my Speed Racer game on the 64-bit. running in 386 mode.
Speaking of, so we watch a lot of anime in our household. We have a subscription to Crunchyroll, so we can watch a lot of anime in our household. As we were flipping through stuff yesterday, went to try to go to one of the shows we were watching, and for some reason it would only play in Spanish. And it's like, why? Everything else is still playing in English and is working well in English mode, but for some reason that anime is only working in Spanish. So I'm like, all right, screw it. Flipping through, I'm like, oh, that's right, I forgot I added this to the watch list. So I looked at Crow and I'm like, Crow, I'm going to introduce you to the very first anime I watched ever. Go, 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 Speed Racer. He's a demon on wheels.
How do they like it?
They were like, what? Why is she winning? Because it's a 1960s, 1970s anime.
Mm-hmm.
But why is this happening? Because it's a...
You were bought it on that entire thing on my
Pardon?
You were
bought
Mr.
it on
Roboto.
that entire last sentence.
Oh, it was just me repeating, why is that? Like, because it was the 1960s anime. And I take it I just about it again, because I...
It evidently doesn't like that sentence.
Yep.
Apparently.
And I was just reminded that it's time to start the show.
We'll get it going.
22 minutes into the show. Okay. Yeah, Rich, I'm not trying to one up you. But my first introduction to Japanese anime was the black and white Astro Boy cartoons. And I would get up on Saturday mornings and watch the test pattern for 30 minutes until an episode of Flash Gordon or Buck Rogers serials from my parents' era came on, and then it would play an episode of Astro Boy. And then the cartoons would get a little bit more recent than that as time progressed through my Saturday morning, until I wound up with, it's almost 11 o'clock in the morning and the cartoons have ended. What am I going to do the rest of the day? Oh, okay. I've got a bicycle. Go explore the neighborhood one more time. Play Frisbee. Get into stuff that I'm going to get in trouble for later. This was pre-girls, Donna.
I didn't say a thing.
I know. The smile on your face said enough.
Oh, that was just memories of days on the farm.
On the floor.
Hey, this was pre-farm.
Mm.
Dad hadn't bought either of the two farms yet, so we were still in the middle of Clark County, in the middle of Athens. And if there weren't cartoons on and I wasn't in school, wasn't a lot else for me to do other than play Frisbee, ride my bicycle, go across the street to a neighbor's house where they had
Girls.
a record player on the front porch, and we're listening to Flo and Eddie and Battle of the Big Bands and stuff like that, and Star Trek on TV, and
Did they discuss Scary Will?
excuse me.
Did they discuss Carrie Wood?
Wouldn't have had the faintest idea what that meant at that time. That would have just been fancy furniture to me. Um,
Mhm.
uh,
Well,
Kind of the same for me now.
if you'd have been on the farm, it would have been watch the cartoons on Saturday morning and until they went off, and then go outside and bother the bother the cows and then bother the chickens and play with the.
we never had livestock on our farm. It was wake up an hour before dawn. Not you, but daylight.
Shut up, Rich.
Go downstairs, eat breakfast, go to the barn, change the oil in the air filter on the tractor, make sure I had the right farm implement hooked up to the tractor, and then get out and work until 11 p.m.
So you got up before the.
Yeah,
Yes, I did.
if we can't
Yes, I
say it,
did.
we can't.
I didn't say it, but I know what y'all was thinking.
Hey, this was not even that far down the anatomy. This is more like the shoulder blades.
Oh dear.
Um,
I'm starting to drag but there we go. I watched my mouth. That's how tired I am of actually watching.
You lost your mouse.
sorry.
Watched my mouth. I didn't swear.
Oh, mouse.
That being said,
Are any of you acquainted with Christy Shin?
I know who she is. Demon Bitch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's a great. Yeah, she's in the humor group. She and Nita would probably get along very, very well. Every other word is the F word.
Okay.
And
Frequent punctuation. Okay.
she posted that she had gone to this show and had not sworn once while she was there. And I commented like, "Okay, who are you, and what have you done with our Christy?"
And what have you done with our Demon Bitch? That's what she self-proclaims herself as.
Yeah, well, that's the comic that she draws.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like I didn't want Dan and Rich to think that I was disrespecting her or being rude or anyway to her.
Yeah.
Would not ever think that about you. Butter wouldn't melt in your mouth.
But
And if you believe that, you'll buy this watch.
now, being the youngest on the farm had nothing to do with being a girl, but being the youngest. The boys had to get up early and stay late, but I got to take care of the livestock. And we usually ran 3 seasons of cows. That's 3 different age groups,
Mm-hmm.
and they were kept in 3 different lots. And I was fooling around one time, and a gate came open, and the cows in that particular lot got out in the barnyard. And being the typical youngster, I think I was maybe about 7, maybe 8 at the time, I ran and opened a gate, and those cows got out too, and I managed to have all 3 lots of cows in the barnyard. Finally got them back into lots, shut the gates, and like, yeah, I did it. Nobody's gonna know. I had put all of them were in the wrong lots, but I somehow managed to keep all of the same seasons together. All the ones were in number 3 lot, and all the 2s were in number 1 lot, and all the 3s were. Don't ask me how. Pop comes home, and he's going out and he checking on the cows, and he's like, "These are not in the right lots." I'm like, "Oh, okay. I should have known he'd know." Mom was out there with him, and she looks and said, "But they're all the same ones. They all belong together, and they're just in different lots." Don't know how it happened. But because they didn't get mixed up, I didn't get punished. That's the important lesson here.
That's the important lesson here. Make sure each generation of cattle stay together. Yep. Things were much simpler for us without any livestock. All we had to, it's not like the wheat is suddenly going to wind up in the cornfield. The soybeans don't migrate.
If a tornado comes along, that could happen.
No, you might lose the entire crop, but they're
Mm-hmm.
wheat, barley, and oats are going to pretty much stay there unless they wind up in the next county.
We just had corn and beans. Do you ever have to walk the fields before planting and pick up rocks?
Constantly.
My
Before, during, after. I do understand implicitly why England has so many stone walls.
Yeah.
Because some kid had to walk around and tote them rocks, and they're going, okay, this is far enough. Boom. I'll put this one next to that one. Boom. You keep doing that until you can actually plow the field successfully, and you've got a 600-year-old stone wall that's still standing to this day.
Yeah. Mom and I decided, well, that's why she's called Mother Nature, because she's constantly giving birth to these damn stones.
I tell you, it's like if it rains, they pop up. They just kind of grow up out of the ground, and you're going,
Mm-hmm.
I just cleared this patch yesterday.
Yep.
Now I got another one. Okay, it's only a quarter mile. I can tote it.
Yeah. Clearing rocks, and of course, back then, you weeded the fields.
Yeah, by hand.
Mm-hmm. Walk down the row and yeah.
Yeah.
So that was my other duty in the field. And then when hay baling time comes through, that's when I would drive the tractor that pulled the hay wagon that the guys would.
Mm-hmm. I understand implicitly. Now imagine 400 acres of soybeans that you have to walk through and tote rocks out of.
So, good night, everybody. I'm going to head to bed.
Over.
Okay,
Good night,
sweetie.
Dawn.
Night, Dawn.
We're not going to make you tote rocks, honey.
That's okay. I understand. And I'm not going to comment further on that because look at that.
She's got to wake up early so somebody can wake up next to her ass crack.
He's got to be to work at 6.
On a Sunday?
Yep.
I love retirement.
I'm going to.
I don't know if I'll get to.
Mm. And then my other job was feeding the baby calves the artificial milk, stirring it up and feeding them. And people go, "Don't you get attached to them?" Well, yeah, I name them, and then when they're big enough, we butcher them.
That's my cow sirloin, and that's my pig
My mother-in-law
pork
got
chop.
so pissed off at me and my brother-in-law. They decided to get chickens.
Oh,
Oh,
She was trying to figure out names. We're like, okay, fricassee, fried, parmesan, nuggets, and she's just getting, so angry with us. I'm like, you do plan on killing some and eating some? She's like, yeah, but call them what it is from the beginning.
yeah,
This
really.
way, you're not looking going, oh, little Mother Sue, I don't want to do this to little Mother Sue. You're looking like Parmesan. Damn, you're going to taste good.
Hmm. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
You've seen my underwear drawer. So,
No, but I have known people that raised different animals, and they didn't have to be the same species to have a day of the week nomenclature. So,
so we had the
oh, here we go. Here comes trouble.
hi
Yep.
yep.
Chris.
So,
We had the first white Charolais bull in Vermilion County. Everybody else had Herefords, which are red and white.
Hmm.
What do you get when you cross a white Charolais with a red and white Hereford?
Beef
Pink?
steak.
Orange.
yep.
They
I
come
was going
out.
to say that or either a pinto.
They come out just about almost as orange as this ball. They do fade a little after when they grow, but they're still orange as they grow up. We also were the first people in Vermilion County with a black Angus bull. It was a little. He was so cute. I think I was taller than he was. Big, burly thing. After our landlady died and the new people bought the land, I used to scare the new landlord's wife because I would go out. Because the white Charolais I named Snowball, and the black Angus was named Pogo, and they were my bestest friends. And she just knew they were going to trample me. Then I ride out with my horse and get off next to them and just pet them because they were my pets.
Hmm.
And it was also fun to scare her.
I can just imagine the delight you took in doing that.
Now, I once knew a family around here that they bought only white Charolais because they worked during the daytime, and they'd only get home from work right about dusk, and they realized you can count white cows
After dark.
in the sunset when you can't count black ones or brown ones or red ones because
Yep.
they're all the same color in the dark, but white ones just kind of stand out.
Mm,
Yep.
And people kind of laughed at that, but then they were right. They
Yep.
they knew exactly when one of them had strayed off and trampled down a fence and got out. And around here, unlike in New Mexico, if you hit a cow, it's the farmer's fault. In New Mexico, cow gets out, you hit it with your car, you going to jail. you may not ever get out in your lifetime.
Wow.
Oh. Yeah, it's the farmer's fault here in Illinois too.
Mm.
Um. Okay. I gotta ask, what was the earth-shattering news?
Chris, how long have you known Joe Dog?
A long time. He just told me to ask you because
The earth-shattering news is Joe Dog is a fucking asshole.
that was my name for him before I actually knew what his name was.
Kindergarten, was it?
I knew that would get Donna cracked up.
Oh.
No, and like I told Dan, that's really not news to those of us who know him.
Yeah.
Well, actually, what y'all don't know, well, Chris does, just before this show started,
Hmm.
I popped back up on screen in Stupid O'Clock and told him off.
I saw it.
Okay.
Me and him were talking because we got a staff meeting Sunday, and he actually broadcast the beginning of your show. We were both laughing. But I told him I would ask you, so I did. And I managed to keep a straight face for most of the time till Donna lost it, and then. But I'm in good company. I'm among other devious, mischievous little shits.
You know, Dan. Oftentimes you come on air and you go, "I don't know how we could top Stupid O'Clock." Stupid O'Clock's got its jokes. It's got you guys laughing. But tell me, it does not have the people on the panel totally losing their shit and not being able to talk for 4 or 5 minutes because we're laughing so hard.
No,
But also try to behave a little bit more for Joe Dog because Joe Dog wants monetization where we don't really care about it here.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. And as a result, this is about as close as you can get to the green room without being absolutely wide open green room.
Yep.
So
That's true.
you know,
Although
we have been a little risque from time to time.
We
last
bounce
night,
along the surface of the water about as good as anybody else can.
Well, we try and restrict it to mere double entendre, whereas a green room can go for triple and quadruple and Cinco de Mayo entendre.
And absolutely no entendre whatsoever.
Really?
Just straight out saying it.
Yeah, really.
Yep.
we were pretty sedate last night, though.
We like putting the
Yeah.
risk
Well,
in risque.
it's been a little subdued for the last 2, maybe 3 weeks.
But
So
due for a humdinger one.
that we're due for everybody cutting loose all at once. But
You know why I've been subdued the past couple of weeks? So
yeah.
I gotta move past that again. Don't know
Yeah.
when.
That's
But,
one.
you know,
That's one of the things. That's one of the things when. How can I put this politely? When mortality rears its ugly head, and we've got to deal with losing a good friend forever, we tend to behave a little bit more subdued until we realize that friend wouldn't want us to be subdued. They want us to be like a New Orleans funeral and have a full
And
jazz
that's
band
what,
and everything.
well, we didn't have a jazz band, but yeah, that's what we
Mm.
did. But there's also the frustration of not being able to confront the person responsible.
Yeah, there's no way to get closure in this instance.
Yeah. Not the
Mm.
closure you want or need.
Well, need, I would say. Want, not sure I would want to go to prison for getting that closure, but
There
Yeah,
are
well,
ways to get or to confront the individual in these cases, but
Well, and there, in my mind,
self fire would be needed just in case something else came back with it.
in
well,
my mind, there's,
sometimes the price is not worth the cost.
yeah,
in my mind too, there's also more than one person at fault.
yeah,
Oh, exactly. Yes.
But I'm sitting back and letting the lawyers take care of them.
yeah,
Yeah. Which, you know, sicking lawyers on somebody is usually the best revenge of all.
yeah. Especially
Especially,
depending on the lawyers they're dealing with.
Unless it's the help desk. Sicking lawyers in the help desk is a dick move.
well, especially since
You would
the
know,
lawyer,
Yes.
Richard.
Yes.
I was
better
holding
than
off.
most.
I was holding off saying that, but I didn't
Well,
know how much
For
longer I was
those
going to
that
be able to
don't
hold
know,
back.
I know everyone on the panel knows, but for those who are watching who may not know, I used to be help desk for a law firm. I still do IT for the law firm. I'm just in another aspect of IT now.
Yep.
But yeah, attorneys can be real dicks to the help desk.
well,
Everybody can be real dicks to the help desk.
in
Well,
this case, it helps that the lawyer knows everybody involved and has made it his life to tick them off as much as possible even before this happened. So he
Now,
welcomes every opportunity to take these people down.
hopefully, the lawyer is really good at being a shyster.
From
I
what I
I, I,
heard,
I don't always appreciate shyster lawyers unless they're on my side.
yep.
Well, yeah, that's normal.
but
Wouldn't want to go up against one.
considering the circumstances, this is a case where you need a shyster lawyer, and he's got a good record.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
It's nice
That's
to know it's in capable hands.
that's like
but
when I had my motorcycle accident, and I hired a criminal lawyer. In this case, that's a redundant term. Um, seriously, one of the best in the county, and uh, he went out of his way to make sure that I was treated fairly, and they got what was coming to them.
Yeah.
hmm
And
well,
he did go behind the scenes to uncover a few unsavory acts post accident.
Hmm.
So I'm wondering if that particular individual still has a license to practice his former uh, mode of employment. So,
Possibility.
yeah, real possibility. It's hard to run a taxi company if nobody will insure your taxi cabs.
for
Yeah.
sure. Well,
Actually, no. It's not real hard to run one. It's real hard to run one legally.
Yeah. Um,
Of course,
I
nowadays,
remember.
yeah, they call them Uber.
I remember the first time I went to Washington D.C. Luckily, I was with some friends that had been there before, and they told me to keep an eye out for the taxis, especially the ones with the diamonds on top of the roof. He said they will run you over.
Okay.
Not they might. He said they will.
Yeah.
Well, oh, and we had something analogous, but not the same. When Lindsay and I were in England, she told me, don't talk when you're in a taxi cab. If they hear your American accent, we're going to get charged a whole lot more than what the ride is actually supposed to be charged.
Yep.
So we're sitting in the back of a taxi cab, and she starts asking me questions. What am I supposed to do?
Whisper in her ear.
It didn't work. Cab driver immediately figured out I was American, immediately took a wrong turn, trying to take the long way around to where we were going. Thankfully, it was in Lindsay's hometown. She knew the back roads better than the cab driver, and she jumped down his throat with both feet. He was lucky to get the full fare that we actually owed, much less the extras that he was trying to tack on to the meter. And she refused to let me tip him for good reason. And I just, when I paid him what the ride was supposed to be worth to start with, and she knew the amount to the exact change, I said, you would have got a tip if you hadn't been an asshole. And then turned around and walked in the house.
Yeah.
I probably would not be able to get a cab in England anywhere in the entire United Kingdom nowadays, but because they do talk to one another. But she did call the cab company and report him.
Yeah.
And chapter and verse. I mean, seriously. She told it all exactly the way it happened, exactly what the driver did, exactly what his excuse was. And they go, yes, ma'am. You're Reverend Bert's daughter, aren't you? And she goes, yes, I am. And they go, it'll never happen again. Because her daddy was well respected in that town. I mean, D-Day veteran, preacher.
Yeah.
There were a lot of mitigating circumstances to keep people from trying to take advantage of that family.
Yeah.
Now, what did I interrupt you saying, Chris? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, not important. I just enjoy hearing when Lindsay gets perturbed enough to where she jumps in somebody's shit. That's
you will know the little bitty British lady has been in your shit.
Yeah, because she's a sweet lady, but I wouldn't want to piss her off. Because what most people don't realize is the people that are really nice most of the time are just as perfectly capable of going in the opposite direction. Be thankful they choose to be nice and not the other way around.
This is a lesson I wish was more prominent in America, actually.
It, as the saying goes, fool around and find out.
Which makes it all the more frightening because, you know, I pride myself on being a nice guy, but I have reached my limit with some people, and they were very surprised. It was like they found themselves having a leg gnawed off by a butterfly. It's one of those situations you did not think was ever going to happen.
There have been a few people that were almost in a state of shock when I got done with them. I don't like getting that way, but sometimes they don't understand anything else. And you have to drop the proverbial 2,000-pound anvil on top of them.
Well, that's a post-it note I'm not going to need again.
Yeah, people who have only spoke to me on the phone were very surprised when they saw me in person, because I have resting thug face and being 6'4" and over 400 pounds. I tend to make the people that people cross the street to avoid, they tend to cross the street to avoid me. Because like, do we really want to fuck with Big Boy? No, we don't want to fuck with Big Boy.
Exactly.
But it's spending so much of my life in customer service, especially in IT. I have IT voice, or not necessarily IT voice, but I have customer service voice. And it's someone from the firm was riding the train that I was, because I was still on the train at that point in time. And they heard my voice, but they're like, that can't be. And then, they came over and they're like, do you work at insert firm name here? Yeah, I'm like, yeah. On the help desk? Yeah. Are you rich? Yeah.
I'd like to be.
And they're like, I've never heard you talk so profanity laden. I'm like,
I'm not at work right now.
probably because you haven't pissed me off enough on the phone for me to talk that way. And this is me when I get to actually talk the way I want to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just like, I never would have placed it. I'm like, I'm a real person. On the help desk, we've got to kiss everybody's ass. And they're like, I never thought of it that way. I'm like, I've got to talk people down from, you no good mother, I want your job. All I did is answer the phone and say hello. So I don't know why you want my job yet. How about we hold off on that until we get into what the problem is? And the
You
thing
can't
with
handle my job.
the thing is, on the help desk, I had no problem with people swearing. Other people on the help desk had problems with users swearing. I didn't care. I'm like, if you're motherfucking Microsoft, I'm right there with you. But if you're motherfucking me and I didn't screw it up, we're gonna dance. Now, if we're in the middle of something and I make it worse, cuss me out. I deserve it. I'll take it. But just straight out of the gate. In fact, I had one attorney that started that, and I'm like, whoa, hit the brakes right there, Sparky. If I screwed it up, you can cuss me out. You can use those, turns of phrase towards me. I'll take it. But if not, I don't care if you swear. You're not swearing at me. You can swear along with me. I'll cheer you on if you're like, this program sucks, this blah, blah, blah. I'm right there for you. But you using that language at me instead of near me, there's a difference. At me, no. Near me, we're cool. And after that, he tried to get me instead of any of the other technicians, because
you spoke his language.
I got him. And in fact, it got to the point where he was like, "Oh, hey, Rich, here's my unreasonable request du jour." Exact quote from the guy too. "Hi, Rich, this is my unreasonable request du jour." I'm like, "Oh no, that's not that unreasonable. We can go ahead and take care of that. I just have to run it up the flagpole first, just to make sure that I'm allowed to. But we should be able to take care of that for you." He's like, "All right, thank you, please." And everyone else is like, "Wait, I heard the sound coming out of that phone. That was Ken, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Yes, that was." "How do you have him so relaxed?" "Because I don't give any fucks."
Welcome to my world.
Well,
And he recognizes a kindred spirit.
well, let me ask you this, Rich. Do you ever remember anybody that calls that's super polite? Or do you even get those kind of calls?
Actually, I do get a lot of folks who are super polite, especially now that I've transitioned to training. But on the help desk, there were 2 attorneys who were always really, really polite to me. But again, they were rarely polite. They were polite-ish to the rest of the folks, but they were really polite to me. Yeah, it's the first few times a user gets any technician, they're just going to be their status quo because they don't know the service that they're going to get.
Yeah.
But when they get technicians who are on the better side, and I don't mean to sound egotistical, but I was one of the best help desk technicians that they had on the first level.
Yeah.
1, I knew what the hell I was doing. 2, I knew how to talk people down.
Yep.
And that's half the job right there is, finding a way to relate to that person and talk them down. Of course, I always did it through humor.
That's 3/4 of the job is the first 2 things you mentioned. Knowing what you were doing and being able to talk them down. The rest of it's just, icing on the cake. That's the cake.
I knew how to Fisher Price stuff without making it sound like I was being condescending. Now, there's a lot of other folks that they don't know how to translate and go from technician to, well,
layman's terms.
They can either talk technician or they can talk dumbass. They can't hit any of the degrees in between.
Yeah.
And you have to learn where to hit them in between. There are some people you can talk to dumbass, like Ken, the guy I was talking about earlier. He had no problem with me hitting dumbass because he admitted he was a dumbass. When it came to law, he could run circles around me. Thank God, because I'm not a lawyer. So lawyers should be able to run circles around me. But when it came to techie stuff and stuff like that, it's I could Fisher Price it down as much as I wanted to. He would not be offended in any way, shape, and or form because he knew I wasn't calling him a dumbass.
You were trying to explain it in terms he could understand.
Exactly. Because I would try to. I knew I couldn't speak tech. I knew I had to hit somewhere in between. Yeah. And this is where my mother was a godsend for me for the role I would eventually go into. Because my mom, I love her to death. But technologically speaking, she was a dumbass. So I had to find ways to be able to translate things and find ways for my mom to understand it where she would not kill me.
Yeah.
So her and my dad were major good things for me to have to go ahead and hone that kind of way to go ahead and translate things.
Yeah, because it helps when you're able to make it understandable to those who are
Or
unaware.
not
Nomenclature and
technically
all that stuff.
inclined.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, and I would always try to find a funny way to put it into words that they'd understand, like searches in our document management system. So our document management system is basically an electronic filing cabinet, and we've got a search functionality that has many different fields. Now, if they go across fields, it becomes an AND search. They can do an OR search within a field, but if they have to cross fields, it becomes AND. So I'm like, if you're looking for something, you can't find what you're looking for, make sure that you don't have stuff in additional fields, because, it can find you an orange and an elephant, but it can't find you an orange elephant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah, it helps that I know some of the nomenclature for computer terms, that there's some folks that, just, if you said BIOS to them, they wouldn't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, no, they'd be like, no, we got that on the web page. The marketing takes care of the BIOS. Yeah. No, those are BIOS, not BIOS. But yeah, it's I had some individuals that, so I used to work for a company called SEI, and we supported the firm as their overflow help desk and as their after hours help desk. They got rid of the company that I worked for, SEI, and then went to a different company called IntelliTeach. A couple months later, I got hired in by the firm to be first level help desk, actually on site at the firm. IntelliTeach, I hated with a passion. And it got to the point where I only called them IntelliFuck instead, because they were dumb fucks. The reason why I detested this company so much is they did not follow policy. I knew policy backwards and forward, and I'm like, no, if you look at the thing, the policy is going to say blah, 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 blah. Well, how do you know that? Because I've had to deal with this policy for several years. I had to know this policy backwards and forwards in order for the company I used to work for to not get into trouble. I used to have to be a supervisor for the other company. And then IntelliTeach did not understand what a high priority ticket means. So they would call us up 4-5 hours after the initial call was made to them to tell us that there was a high priority ticket. 9 times out of 10, we had already solved the high priority ticket, because after an hour and change, that attorney would be calling us back, screaming their head off. Now, IntelliTeach also branded themselves as a law firm help desk. But apparently they didn't understand it well enough, for the simple reason, when it comes to courts, if something has to be filed by 9 a.m., it has to be filed by 9 a.m. And if that attorney is calling in saying, I've got a filing, this has to be in 30 minutes, and you are now calling us back 6 hours later, past that 30-minute deadline, you might have just cost the law firm over $1 million, depending on the case involved. I mean, I work for an AM Law 100 law firm. What that means is, you know what Fortune 500 means? Top 500 companies. AM Law, top 100 law firms in the U.S.
which means they're dealing with literally millions and millions of dollars.
We've got government contracts. We've got contracts with companies that are dealing in the millions, and in some of our cases, our clients, we're dealing with billions of dollars, not just per year, possibly one transaction.
Yep. Yeah, you were right to call them intelligent folks.
Oh yes, it got to the point where I was no longer allowed to answer the bat phone. So
wow.
we had a little StarTAC flip phone that was an emergency phone that they could call in to tell us that, so that they didn't get wrapped up in a bunch of other stuff. So it was only a number that the outsource help desk had, so that they can get through to us immediately. We'd run over, it's going off. Hey, okay, high priority coming up. We got it. Okay, we'll make sure it gets kicked over correctly. But I mean, we had one attorney who was a real firecracker. She was a partner, and she did not take any bullshit. She was very short-tempered, very short-fused. She called in and dealt with them for over 2 hours on a Saturday, trying to get her computer to be able to see the hotel wired network, and also the hotel Wi-Fi network. Then she called in on Sunday, dealt with them for another hour. In both days, she couldn't get it done. I called her back first thing Monday morning because I was the first one in the office, so I would see all the stuff from the weekend. So I called her immediately because it said call immediately on Monday. Within 30 seconds, I had her up and running. She motherfucked for about 5 minutes straight. And she's like, I'm sorry, I'm not angry at you. I'm like, I understand. She's like, I'm angry with the outsource. I'm like, I understand. They have this procedure. They know to do this. You had me fixed in 30 seconds. Yes, ma'am. I read the tickets, ma'am. I understand, and I'm surprised you managed to keep it as short as you did with your tirade. And she's like, thank you. I'm like, no problem. And then she actually emailed my supervisor and laid into IntelliTeach through my supervisor and said, I can't remember the guy's name from this morning, but he helped me a lot, blah, 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 blah. And then, the supervisor walked in. It was you, wasn't it? Yeah. All right. And just walked back out.
Didn't give you a raise or anything.
I was through a vendor, so they had no power to give me a raise.
Yeah.
But I'm good at my job.
Yeah.
I don't always like my job, but I'm good at my job.
And you take pride in it.
Yes. And that is the main thing that really pissed me off about IntelliTeach is when they hired SEI to be the outsource and the overflow help desk. The help desk was a joke.
Yep.
My hard work made them stop making the joke, oh, I guess we better call the helpless desk.
Yep.
And they started having no problem contacting the help desk, and they started getting a lot nicer to us. And then IntelliTeach did the stupid shit that they did and didn't follow procedure. They did stuff that could have gotten the firm sanctioned legally on stuff, because they did not follow legal procedures. And it's just I was pissed off because the firm let go the company I was working for to take these other people on, IntelliTeach. And the thing is, IntelliTeach's prices for the firm were more expensive than SEI's. So they were paying more money for worse service.
Yeah.
And that pissed me off.
I was going to say more money for an inferior service.
Exactly. And then, when I came back in and I had to deal with taking their calls and everything that they're putting up, it's like, no, why don't you read the policies? It's, I don't know, it's
because they didn't care. They were getting paid and they did not take their responsibilities and their duties seriously.
Yeah. And that's the thing
you had a bunch of immature kids who were posing as adults.
My support ideology is customer centric, meaning we do everything we need to, everything we can, everything within our power, and some stuff that's out of our power that we're able to get away with, making it seem like it's in our power, to make sure that the end user has something that is speedy, something that is respectful to the end user, if at all possible. Every once in a while, you just got to say, no, you're a dumbass. But, as respectful as possible, and has the best outcome. And like I said, a lot of it is talking them down off the ledge, because if you can ask 2 or 3 questions that can go ahead and get them to stop and breathe and think, and they're in a better frame of mind, and
they can probably explain the problem better to you as a result.
And one thing that whenever I taught any new people coming into the help desk is, you always want to say back to the end user what they just said to you, using different words to make sure you are both on the same page.
Yeah.
Because if you repeat it back word for word, you might not understand exactly what the hell they're saying.
Yeah.
So you've got to restate it in a slightly different way to make sure that they are asking the question they think they're asking. Because sometimes people will ask a question and they don't have any idea on the correct terminology in any way, shape, and or form. So they're asking a question which you understand all the words for, but you're trying to do one thing, and it's something completely different on what they actually wanted.
Yep.
And there was a time in my career at the factory where I was the unofficial Richie. And computer would start acting up, and they would say, "Hey, Dan's working tonight. Get him in here. Maybe he can straighten it out." And okay, I was coming from the position of someone who has been using computers since the TRS-80 was state of the art.
Since 5 minutes after Charles Babbage created the difference engine.
And they were using Windows 3.11, Windows 95, Windows 98, and they were using Lotus 123,
I
which is
actually
a
like 98.
well,
Millennium
yeah,
Edition, I did not care for.
no, I didn't either. But Lotus was it was a perfectly good training ground for what would eventually become Excel
Yep.
or uh, the oh not obvious what the
Are you thinking of Corell's Word Perfect?
no, I was thinking of
Corel Draw.
Apache
Oh,
the not freeware but the a shared open source version of what eventually became uh, Excel and
Mhm.
Word and all the other things that Microsoft is making money off of right now.
Yeah.
But I played with these programs and and back in the day they go, hey, QC can't enter their data. This is not acceptable. We need to get this computer running. What do we do? I go, well, get my relief man up here, and I'll go to the QC office and see what I can do. And basically, it was shut it down,
hmm
shut Lotus down entirely, make sure everything was safe,
hmm
run um, scan disk, run defrag,
hmm
reboot the computer. Now let's see whether or not it works. Time and time again, that was all it took. The Lotus was hogging all the memory,
hmm
so nothing else would work. And once Lotus used all the available memory,
hmm
and believe me, this is not you can add extra RAM to this, you can
Yeah.
add extra this or that. No, this is company dictated. This is all you could have,
Yep.
which was like a third of what you actually needed to do the job.
Of course, because
So
they didn't want to spend the money on what you did need.
yeah, really. But clearing the cache, scan disk, defrag, reboot usually took care of every problem they were having, and Lotus would run. Um, and I knew this from basically just playing with what I had at the house. I did. The company did pay for me to have a course in DOS and Windows 3.11, but the computers we were trained on for that course did not have a hard drive, so you had to do everything swapping floppy disks. It was that far back in time, and that the ones at work had a hard drive, so they should have been better. They basically were better. It's just the program they were using as their workhorse to keep account of everything was one that routinely maxed out how much memory it was allowed to use. And you basically had to go in and tell it, hey, take a chill pill. We're going to go through here and let it do this, let it do that, and then we're going to reboot and you'll be fine. You, you did not break the cup holder. Um, so, I mean, I never got paid any extra for this, but I was always the go-to guy because I'd been playing with computers since they were really, really just things to do games on. Plug a cartridge in and do this. And I had bought myself a 386 and rebuilt it into as maxed out as you could do a 386 with math coprocessor chips and everything else. And just, I had the best 386 you could possibly have at that period in time, and it was built by Radio Shack. And then got my
good stuff back in the day.
back in the day, yeah. Back in the day, yeah. I mean, they were the ones I bought my TRS-80 from. I had a Coco 3. I could make that thing do stuff that I had all kinds of copies of computer magazines that a friend of mine had given me, and I go through and I would translate stuff for Commodore 64s and not Amiga. What was the other one before Amiga? And another brand besides Commodore that would do something else.
No, not Ace.
No, well,
Not Acer.
no, that was before Acer ever came out. I'm
I'm
almost
trying
sure,
to think.
but
I
so-
forget the order
When
they
Wayne
come in.
was it?
yeah, it was different flavors of BASIC or OS2 or whatever. I was translating the instructions for one computer to the TRS-80 and getting the programs to actually run.
It
It's
wasn't Wayne or Compaq, was it?
Nope, not really. It would have been there were like 3 options at the time.
So, like early adopters of the game, you had your Commodore 64 with the VIC-20. You had, and the Commodore eventually became Amiga. You had Tandy through Radio Shack.
Yeah.
The color computer, another flavor of Tandy through Radio Shack. You had your Apples. And those are the only ones I can remember for early computers.
Yep.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
it probably was some flavor of an Apple operating system, and the magazines that have these little programs in the back, just the code.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had that computer, you could type it in, and it would run the little program. What I was doing was going, okay, how do I translate this to a Coco 3? And I succeeded in doing that on several occasions, just for fun, because it was a challenge to learn how to go, oh, okay, this language says this, but this language says the same thing using these other syntax, basically, different grammar. That's probably the best way to describe it. Different grammar. This period is a comma here, and it's a semicolon over here. Okay, so if I translate all this, it should work, and I translate, and it worked. So, and then Windows 3.11. I mean, I was already writing DOS batch files to get the computer to do all kinds of updates and stuff before I shut it off, or when I first started it up, and whatever. DOS is basically a form of BASIC. Is that right, Richie?
What was that?
DOS was basically a form, a flavor of BASIC.
Not quite.
Well,
it's similar ideology. It's so the original DOS might have been programmed in BASIC, possibly, But it's
Yeah, well, I'm coming from a deep pit of ignorance here because I never studied what was
where
what.
BASIC was a programming language, DOS was an operating system. So DOS was more of a list of commands that somebody made so that you could type things in and it would translate back to the computer that you wanted to do X type of tasks, where
Hmm.
basically using something like BASIC or um, COBOL or Fortran or
Yeah.
assembly, you could actually create something to create your list of codes. And assembly was for the really hardcore nerds because assembly you're actually writing in binary. Everything you're doing is in actual binary.
Mm. I never got that
It's in
far.
language.
Yeah.
I never got that far. Basically, what I was doing was trying to translate from one operating system to another. And I got fairly decent at it because I succeeded time and time again at getting the Coco 3 to run stuff off of other
Yeah.
operating systems.
Mm.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Yeah.
I played with the stuff. It's not like I had a life. Um, this was fun time for me trying to figure out how to make this thing do this other thing that it's not supposed to do. But if if I
Calvin,
if I change the punctuation, maybe it will.
Say
hey,
hi.
Calvin.
Hey,
Then
Kelly.
He's a pretty boy.
We have figured out something.
What?
He prefers Callie. When we call him Callie, he behaves. And when we call him Calvin, he misbehaves.
Mm.
okay.
Well,
Yeah,
Got to remember their pronouns from now on. Then
I remembered.
familiar problem to me. I've got pronouns and people that I have to remember constantly to use the correct ones or the more general ones in some cases. It's so I'm old. Um, I'm used to binary, not multi-phasing.
Mm.
So I stumble from time to time, and when I catch myself, I apologize. If I don't catch
My
myself, I hope I don't piss anybody off.
my knowledge of computers comes from my uncle subscribing to a bunch of computer magazines while he was away, and me going through them and learning the terminology. So I knew what modem was, I knew what BIOS was, and all that stuff. And eventually, it enabled me to put together my first computer years ago.
when I first started working on one, it was right after Woodlands had sold out to SCI, and they brought in a computer programmed in Chattanooga, a little place that you might have heard of. They called her Daisy, and she had a
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
program that was written specifically for florists, and that's all you could do on it.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, it was an accounting computer, and I was taught how to enter people's names and set up an account for them and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get looking at these other screens, and I'm like, oh, what does this do, and what does that do? And I learned that I could print out all sorts of really cool reports and take them to my boss and like, do you know this is happening? And he's like, okay, that's not what I had figured had happened. And but when I gave my notice and was told sit in the kitchen for 2 weeks and don't talk to anybody, don't answer questions. Nobody else knew what to do with the computer except just the basic, okay, this add this to somebody's bills and take this off somebody's bill. Like, fine. But it wasn't until Carl came along and brought his little Commodore 64. He actually taught me I programmed a game and I programmed a checkbook out of those little programs, like you were saying earlier, the back of the things. I actually did that.
Yeah, and it was probably absolutely fun mental exercise to be able to do it.
hmm And there for a while, we both he wrote articles and I reviewed new computer equipment. My favorite one was a GPS unit that you put in the dash of your car and then waited until it contacted, I think it had to contact at least 3 satellites
hmm
before it could give you directions. Got a lot of free stuff that way.
Yep.
So while my mind's on it, Donna, are you and Misty friends on Facebook?
I don't think so.
All right. I'll need to make sure that she sends you a friend request.
Okay.
I have my spreadsheet for taking care of my characters and stuff like that. I know you have one that's pretty nifty and pretty. So I wanted you two to talk to see what other fields and things she might want me to put in mine, because I've got one tab for her shit, one tab for my shit.
Hey,
Are you ready for the next holiday?
Pardon me?
Are you ready for the next holiday? Midsummer?
June should be the fire feast or fire festival or whatever.
Fire festival. With what area it's in, where the fire is located, whether or not it's Horde or Alliance or both. And so far, they've only got to Legion. Legion has only 2 fires in it, one for the Horde and one for the Alliance. But yeah.
Oh.
I love this particular one because you not only get a lot of experience, you get a lot of gold. And when you honor your fire, you get so much. And when you put out their fire, you get twice as much. And gotta love the gold, right, Richie?
Yes.
And in a similar vein, Chris, back when I was doing the literary track director for Anacron, I wrote an Excel spreadsheet to do con scheduling. Guests, panels, who's going to be on them, whether or not the guests had any dietary restrictions, whether or not the guests had anybody that they would pitch a hissy if they had to be on the same panel with.
Oh man,
that's good to know.
That program would be awesome to have.
If you've got Excel, you can run it. I can give you a copy. It's
He
not
doesn't
that
have
big.
Excel.
It's depends on nowadays. Nowadays they want you to get 365, where you got to pay a monthly subscription.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna try and see if I can find an old copy of it. I hate having to do that yearly. Bullshit.
Apache Open Office, you can do it without having any subscriptions whatsoever. And it will look
and Google
almost
Docs
exactly the same.
does a pretty good job of taking all the language and macros that you can program in Excel. Now, something as convoluted as what you're talking about, Dan, I don't know if it'll work. But I mean, it doesn't hurt to give it the old college try either.
Well,
Yeah.
I know I can make it work on Excel, and I know I made an Open Office version.
Okay.
But,
Yeah.
but it's
Let me.
basically,
I'm gonna get with you about that sometime before Hallowcon.
basically just a spreadsheet, and I mean, track directors fill in their stuff on one tab. Other track directors fill in their stuff on another tab. Way at the end, there is, okay, here's the big thing where you can actually schedule the panels
Mm-hmm.
and have all the guest information and the time and this and that and the other thing. You can throw in meal times, you can throw in break times, you can throw in um, this vendor is going to be there from this time to this time, but they're going to be in another panel over here, so they're not going to have their booth open, and somebody needs to watch the booth for them. And
That is
I
awesome.
I get um, extremely involved in the fine details of things like that.
But that's good to know, especially the part if this person can't stand that person, try and keep them separated.
Mm-hmm. There are potential guests that you want to keep away from other potential guests, or
Mm-hmm.
depending on the relative value of the potential guests, you
Mm-hmm.
don't want to invite one if the
Yes.
other one is going to be there.
Yep.
Thinking of that, is that one particular artist going to be there this year that made that made such a ruckus the year Carl and I were there? He had his work out in the hotel foyer.
No, Dimitri won't be there.
He was an
Or
okay
if you-
guy until he started drinking, and he started drinking at 10 in the
Dimitri
morning.
well, I mean,
He
you
started
could say
drinking
that,
at like 10 in the morning.
you could say that about a lot of us, but
Yeah. He's not going to be there.
I gotta find out if
No, we actually
Critter
have Brian
something's gonna be there.
Silverback. Brian Silverbacks is going to be our artist. He's a pretty big deal.
I'll try and do up a thumb drive with Excel and Open Office versions of the same damn thing, so you can have that. Won't be very large.
Hey,
But-
that's fine.
And I can explain. We can pull it up on a computer somewhere, and I can show you. Do this, do this, do this. Press this button. This happens.
Yeah.
And then at the end, it's like, oh wow, here's everything correlated into a schedule.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Well, I mean, it's free for y'all. Like I said, I developed it for an Acrocon. I got to use it for the last 2 years. The lady in charge of scheduling everything thought I was the next best thing from, since Betty White. I mean, she's older than sliced bread. So,
Betty White was pretty awesome. So
Yeah.
that's high praise.
It worked out, and all they had to do was get everybody to type in their section on their tab, all the stuff, and it would correlate everything into a workable schedule.
Cool. I unfortunately am going to have to call it a night. I got a lot of stuff to do tomorrow morning, especially, and
Well, we've only got another 15 minutes anyway, so
yeah, so I'm not going to miss out on a whole heck of a lot. But thanks for having me in here. I definitely enjoyed it.
you are always welcome, Chris. I mean, seriously.
Anytime I get a chance, I try and jump on here. So
Well,
just know
Always
that
happy
if
to
I'm,
see you.
do what now?
you
Always happy to see you.
Yeah,
and
always happy to see y'all.
you are missed when you don't have the chance to jump in. So
But our aim is getting better.
and
yes,
the
but
one good thing is
it's
I
like the
do
tortoise. You can't ever hit it.
this.
You can get infinitely close, but the damn thing's still going to run. Um,
I at least try and comment if I can't hop on. So um, try and participate in some small way, if nothing
well,
else.
I failed to live up to being Brian or Nick and show every comment
Hey, that's fine.
because
I'm just happy if you acknowledge a few.
hey, I try. Um, we
I know,
other
Dan,
show.
and sometimes the conversation's so good and involved that it gets overlooked. I totally get it. So
Well,
there's no
yeah.
worries here.
That's the thing about this kind of show. The conversations get so good.
Hmm. Well,
Uh,
and that's something that you compared yourself to Nick or Brian. They were by themselves most of the time,
Yeah.
so they they got the time to look at the comments and fill them up, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
well,
And Ryan Permison's real good at catching comments too.
and him seeing
yeah. Uh,
he's so cute.
Ryan's a nice boy. I like
He
him.
is.
I like him.
uh,
Um,
uh, he's almost as fast as Brian K. Morse in his delivery, but
but
you definitely
nowhere near as absolutely random as Brian can be.
no. He is more focused and he is super polite, and you can't help but like him.
Hmm.
And he does do a great deal towards promoting a lot of other people's stuff.
Yes, he is one of the biggest cheerleaders I know of for as many people as he can think of, and he will promote your stuff in a New York minute.
Hmm. Um,
We've definitely gotten to know some good people over the time since we've been doing this stuff.
oh God,
And then
I
there's the
count
rest of us.
I count myself lucky to having to have the opportunity to meet like Nita just off the top of my head.
Oh my God, she is so funny,
I know,
and she
and
does.
and
I don't think she truly realizes how awesome she is at times.
oh, she has no fucks left to give, and she doesn't care. And that's one of her charms.
Yeah,
Is I mean, you just kind of back up and give her headway and let her go. Um,
Yep.
and
and
it's
Donna,
always and that's probably why her show goes so well.
don't uh, don't underestimate the appreciation of those that are so bad they're good.
Thank you. I really hope she makes it to Hallowcon. After
It
what's
was
been going on with C, I don't know, but
Oh, Nita's thinking about coming to Hallowcon?
she was before C got so sick.
I understand. I've been following the ordeal, and I
Yeah.
think he finally got home. And
He's home. He was even on Facebook because I don't know if you've noticed, but through the week I read a little ad for Mike Jimmy,
oh yeah, I try and like it every time I see it. So
and he shared it.
It's a shame he's not going to be able to afford to attend.
I
Yeah.
It's
totally get it.
perfectly understandable, but it is still a shame.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, I was looking forward to it, but it just gives me a little more time to prepare him if he's still planning on doing like he was talking about doing, coming and enjoying the area and the things to do.
Hmm.
Give me a little bit of chance to better prepare an itinerary for him to
Hmm.
use as a guideline. He,
well, we know a lot of people that if they could, they'd be there.
yeah,
And, sometimes the money just ain't there.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the one good thing about it is, it is affordable. It's just like I said, if they've got a lot going on and they're already tied up with stuff,
Or a huge
and then I
distance they have
totally
to
understand
cross.
it.
Yeah.
But unless you're traveling across the pond like Mike Jimmy was, and depending on how the gas prices are, it's not unreasonable for a con.
Hmm.
It depends on your personal situation, though.
And like I said, it depends on
Sometimes
what
it
you
is
got going on.
unreasonable. I mean, seriously. Um, uh, and
But we try and
well,
make it that way.
we
So
just have to be patient and wait till the stars align, and
Hmm.
we get to everybody be together in one room and go. I thought you'd be taller.
I think Carl kind of challenged Ryan into showing up when Ryan was saying, "Oh, that's a 6-hour drive." Yeah, we drive. He said 8 hours. That's what Google Maps says.
mhm.
But Carl's driving, so it's really more like 9 to 10,
Mhm.
which is why we go part way down and stay overnight, and then go
Yeah,
in the next day.
Yeah, well, at least you're not worrying about breaking the sound barrier on the way
I
down.
just want.
No, he won't let me drive.
I tell you what I want. I want Heather Ellen and Nita on a panel together. We'll just sit back and watch.
That would be fantastic.
Oh,
That
okay.
would be so much fun.
Hmm.
If I had a wish list, uh, I would want the stars to align and Richie to be able to show up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We are trying. It
I
depends
know, I know, but
Hmm.
on when we can
but
get Dad's house settled.
yeah,
don't
Yeah.
don't break the bank trying.
yeah.
We are patient.
No,
He's always
that's
fixed it.
why we haven't tried making reservations or buying the passes yet. So, but the second we can get caught up on everything, that's the first thing I get to splurge money on.
Yep. And Mike Jimmy would
And
be another one on my list, and a gentleman from Australia that is going to be at LibertyCon this year, even though Lindsay and I are not. We're going to miss him. Um, and he's one of my best writers on Aphelion, although he does not seem to believe that, and he doesn't turn out an enormous volume of wordage.
yeah.
Um, what words
As,
he does write are awesome. Um, Hippie, I'm talking about you. Um,
as for Heather, it's going to be a while before she can get too far away from home. Uh, One reason she stopped doing her Sunday night show
Mhm.
is her mother's now living with them, and she's taking care of her mother.
mhm.
Yeah.
I think she has Alzheimer's.
Yeah,
It's not a
I
good
suspected
thing.
she
No.
had something going on there. I
Yeah.
try not to pry into people's business too much, but if they want to share
Exactly.
something with me, they're more
Exactly.
than welcome.
But good news for Mike Jimmy, my ad did pay off, and I connected him with somebody who was wanting someone to do a book cover for them.
All
Yeah,
right. And
always nice to get commissions.
hopefully Mike Jimmy knows when he needs music, I will do it.
Yeah,
And I don't care about getting paid. Not for him.
yeah,
Um, it's going to be my honor.
yeah,
Uh, I just the little bit that I've been able to do, uh, I absolutely love it,
yeah,
and it his work makes my music sound good.
Your music always sounds good.
yeah, and it your music enhances his work too. So it's a
Hmm.
I was not going to express it that way because
I will because both are excellent and both are a match made
Yep.
perfectly.
um, uh,
Because I will toot both your horns.
I will do everything I can do and hope
That probably
for the
sounded worse
best.
than I meant for it too, but
I
I
was about to
do
say not the great.
I do hope that Ted and Christine will be able to attend again. I hope they can afford it. They've got even a longer drive.
yeah.
Um, but
They probably need a year off just to recover from the last time.
I, I swear. But they're fun people and they're well worth every bit of fandom we can direct their way too.
Yeah.
Um, Not only for Ted's uh, writing and drawing, but Christine's mixology. Seriously, um,
Yeah. That's some
turn
good
her
stuff.
loose behind the bar at Hallowcon. We'd be knee walking in just a few minutes.
That could be interesting.
Oh, and it would be so entertaining too.
Possibly
Uh,
scary as well, knowing some of the people who attend.
ooh,
Yeah.
All right. Well, I got to get out of here. Y'all have a great night.
okay.
Night
Thanks for
night.
listening.
Next time you talk to Megan, give her my
Have a great
best.
one.
We'll do it. Bye, y'all.
Thank you.
And it's almost that time.
Yes, it is. It's, well, 2 minutes. Uh, Thank y'all for being here. Thank everybody for watching, whether it's right now or later on. Um, our most our most consistent cheerleader is in bed at the moment, but you know the cats will wake him up in time to watch tomorrow.
They'll watch tomorrow, yeah.
Um, Really, I can't tell y'all enough how much I enjoy your company and I'm thankful for your presence here as often as you are able to be here. And if something happens and you can't, I fully understand. Life does tend to get in the way of things sometime. It's not like we're getting paid for this and we have to show up. This is fun time, and
You
it
need to
should
go to bed?
always be fun time.
I am not your elevator.
Although you could throw him across the room and be his catapult.
Oh my.
And
It,
now Peter is going to get on to me about the mistreatment of cats. Have you ever owned one?
in our dining room, which we believe used to be a butler's pantry, because along two walls and part of a third are all these really cool cabinets with windows in them. And on the one side, they only come up to about chest high to me
Hmm.
because there's three windows there. I collect cobalt glassware, and I had this beautiful bit of very tall cobalt that looked really nice when the sun shined in. We have had to take all that down. The cabinets go up to about a foot below the ceiling.
Which is probably a 12-foot ceiling.
hmm So there's nothing up there. We had some stuff, but when they redid the ceiling and stuff, we had taken it out, and I've never put it back up yet. But I'm in the dining room, and he jumps on the chair, on the table, on the first thing right below the window. I've got a shelf on this one side that's got various stuff on it. He jumps on that shelf and up to the top of that thing, and looks down at me as if to say, "Look what I did." And yes, he got pool noodled.
Hmm.
That yeah, and we now have bubble wrap across that instead of my beautiful blue glassware that shines so nicely in the light.
But breaks so easily when a cat missteps.
Yeah, and I got a couple of very rare pieces. I have a beautiful uh, hand blown glass swan. I have a large and small chicken in a basket, duck in a basket, and kitty cat in a basket in cobalt. Collectibles, not antiques. Well, the little bitty hen is an antique, but still, the little one is small enough that when he knocked it off the first time, I found the basket, couldn't find the chicken. Carl found the chicken upstairs in the bedroom where Calvin had taken it. Yeah, that stuff got put away behind glass doors.
Yes, indeed. What else can you do?
I've never had the problem with cats.
Sometimes you have to extremely childproof your house.
Yes.
Um, especially when your children have four legs instead of just three.
I have never had a cat that got up on counters, much less climbed that jumped to the top of a cabinet. This is the first one. He is more trouble than when we had 7 cats in the house.
Lindsay has learned that we cannot set food to cool on the kitchen counters
Mm,
because Kimber is about 8 feet tall when she stands on her hind legs, and the kitchen counter is waist height for me.
hmm
So she can easily reach,
And get something.
yeah, yank the whole plate off into the floor, and
Help herself.
98% of it will disappear on the way down in midair. Only the plate is left.
Okay,
It
I'll
will
take that back.
it will be nicely washed, but you still want to you still want to
Sanitize
rinse
it.
you still want to rinse the dog spit off in hot water. So,
Uh,
yep.
my Siamese Mei Ling, the cat I had when Carl and I met, very well behaved, unless you put out Ham.
Oh,
And you dare not leave Ham by itself, because that was the only time that she would jump on the counter and get something. Hamburger, chicken, nope. But if she could smell ham, she would go after it.
yeah. I count ourselves lucky that Kimber can detect that the stove is on, and she would get hurt. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to cook anything.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I kind of worry about that because I have a ceramic top stove. So there's really nothing to show a cat that this is still hot.
they can tell. Believe me, they can tell. There are
Especially,
temperature sensors built into those whiskers.
yeah, but he's not that careful. This is the cat that was almost a year old before he learned, oh, I can stop without running into anything.
I should not say I've had teenagers like that, and they were human. I'm sorry, kids. Truth hurts, don't it? And you know who you are.
Oh my.
Oh.
Oh well. I guess it's after 2, I guess. We
Yep.
should say goodnight, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie, and good night to all the ships at sea. And we shall see you anon,
Night, guys.
which is a big word for going later.
Night, everyone.
Bye bye.
Transmission overload. System will shut down. System will shut down. will shut down. System will shut down.